Hello out there. How is everybody doing on this glorious, in my corner of the world, fall Tuesday? It's a little crisp. It's nearing dusk. It's getting much darker, much earlier these days. But you know where things are brighter than they were just a week, and especially 2 weeks ago? On the football field, if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I have to say, as things are getting darker outside, things on my inside are just starting to feel just a skosh brighter week by week. Here to discuss these Pittsburgh Steelers with me on this Tuesday, my guest as always on the Tuesday edition of 5-Star Radio, the man himself, Mr. Steel Flyers. How you doing, bud?
Oh my. You know, it's like we say, it's a 5-star matchup because you win it.
Ooh, that's what they say.
Buddy.
That's what they say. That's what Mike Tomlin was talking about when he said this 15 years ago, when I was a measly 17 years old.
So I don't care what if Potsy said that, man. I don't care. Right? But it still holds true though, because I love that mantra. I love that moniker.
Yeah.
That signifies pretty much who you are and what you mean to Steelers and what you mean to the YouTube out there, man. So I feel very lucky and thankful that I get to be on with you. So thank you very much for having me, my man.
No problem, and I appreciate that. So yeah, as I was saying in the intro, I think things, if you're in Steelers country, are starting to feel like they're on a little bit of an upward inflection for the first time since week 1. And that's exciting. I know for me, that's tremendously good news and welcome news on the front of creating content, because nobody wants losing content. That's been made abundantly clear to me. But where do you net out here? Because I know that, you know, me and the youngins on 5-Star Radio yesterday were, you know, feeling generally pretty positive about it. But I think there are some in the community, particularly some of the older Steelers beat writers and stuff, that I'm seeing, you know, really calling out what they perceive to be sort of a hollow win, if you will. And I just don't buy that because of my viewpoint on where this team currently is. I'm curious to hear your opinion on such things.
All right. You know, it's like I was saying before, where you can't build things, like Rome was not built in a day. So you're not going to be able to fix everything in a day. And so, look, it's great that the team was able to put 2 wins in a row. Okay. And that, I think, is the key word right there, is 2 wins in a row. I don't care if we win by 1 point. I don't care if we win by perceived time left on a clock. None of that stuff matters. The fact that at the end of the game, as long as when we do eventually reach the big 0-0, we have more points than the other team.
That's the most important thing.
So putting W's in the win column continues to raise where the Steelers lie as far as we are now tied with Cleveland 3-3.
Steelers in the playoffs if the season ended today.
You know what I mean? So
I mean, tell me you had that down in the notebook 2 weeks ago.
Right. Because we didn't.
Yeah.
Because at that point they were 1-3.
Yeah. No, I mean,
you know what I mean?
I remember going into Green Bay, and the predominant thought from most of us at that point was, wow, I don't know. And I remember me and you even talked about this specifically. I was like, I'm not really sure how many Sunday mornings you're going to be going into Steelers football saying, wow, I feel pretty good about today. and that was not even that's not even to be funny, but it was true. I mean, you watch that Bengals and that Packers game back to back, and we're all sitting here just being like, man, I don't know, and
I know.
And now after these last 2 weeks, look, I don't think any of the wins this year are what you would call pretty wins, but they're getting it done. And, to me, that's showing a little bit of the DNA that we saw in this team last year, which, you get to 11-0, to me, I'm sorry, I know there was issues under the hood and they all came to a head, but it's still a winning formula when you get it done. I remember 2017, 13-3. There were so many of those games against Brett Hundley and the Packers that you could have easily lost. That wasn't a dominant team.
Right.
But so often the difference between a team that's 7-9 and a team that's 13-3 is 5 or 6, plays, just little things. And so I hate to be where we were 2 weeks ago and have people still toiling around in the negative is all I'm saying.
So you're basically saying that, and I've seen it too. I'm not a believer in things, on the negative as far as posting them like that. You know what I mean? I call things out negatively because of them being the truth.
Right.
Okay, but I try not to dwell on that, because I don't want to be that negative person that constantly talks negative about the team, where I can see so many good positive things about this team. I mean, look, let's face it, be it pretty, be it dominant, be it ugly, the team is 3-3. Okay?
It's more or less where I had them pegged. Maybe not the way I would have pegged it. I think they've almost done the exact opposite. You going into the season, you figure, okay, they'll probably lose to Allen, probably lose to Rodgers, and probably lose to Russ. Turns out, injury situations, whatever, they beat the Seahawks, they beat the Bills, which I still can't really figure out. And I think it felt a lot worse because Steelers fans going into the season said, they're probably going to lose week 1. But then you got the Raiders, then you got the Bengals, and turns out both of those teams just ended up getting better than we gave them credit for.
That would be a good way to put it. And I think we were still, I felt that the trend was going to be more of how the Bills game was and how that turned out because of the whole Matt Canada offense. But what I failed to realize was that Ben didn't have any preseason snaps except for that
He played a couple series against Detroit, yeah. And
right.
He did pretty good there, and everybody was all excited,
those were probably scripted plays that he's probably done his whole career there in Pittsburgh.
Sure.
That he could probably do with his eyes
the
closed.
Lions, he's playing, I said it at the time, he was playing third stringers or second stringers on the Lions who are, even in the regular season now 0-6. So, you know.
Like I said, I mean, I'm that to me probably should have been more of a red flag because he didn't get, because now it's taken him, you know, 4, 5, 6 games now to kind of get into the swing of it.
Yeah, but you know what I will say? Okay, because there is somebody that's SR9 in the chat who immediately called us out. I guess he must have caught a snippet and he said, geez, feel good Tuesday, huh? And I guess he was just talking because we were going down that path of talking about the negative. But the point is, we were talking about, you know, not wanting to go down the path of the negative. And I will say that I think, okay, so there's two things developing with Roethlisberger here. One, I do think you're seeing his play improve. I think he's getting better. However, I have to caveat that with, I don't take back what I said 2 weeks ago because I do think he was playing bad regardless of the line. The line's playing a little bit better, and now he's taking that time. I called it out on the show. Yeah. There's a big difference between 2.4 and 2.1 seconds. It's huge. And so he is playing better. It is a combination of things, but I have to say, I think what I realized for sure, and I think we were aware of this going into the season, but until you see it, especially with an athlete hero like Roethlisberger, until you see it in reality, you could talk about it on paper all you want, but until you see it, it's hard to wrap your head around. But he is no longer the most important player on the Steelers' offense. That distinction lies with the man who wears number 22. Roethlisberger is still the quarterback. He touches it every play. He's a distributor. However, I think the bellwether for how games are going to go is going to be Najee Harris.
See, and I was trying to allude to that with really not saying that, you know, because I'm keenly aware of your thoughts of Roethlisberger. And although I do agree, I think he is improving his play to an extent, I'm still seeing things to where plays that I'm still scratching my head on.
Yeah, I think there's still a limit. There's still going to be a finite limit to what he's going to do in this offense because he's not taking a ton of chances, and I think they obviously want his opportunities to be much closer. I mean, even this week he did throw it 40 times, but they want that ratio of his pass attempts to Najee touches to be closer to the same.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And I think he needs to learn to play within that structure. My guy Gage just keeps saying this, but if they continue to play offense within the structure of their system, they can and they will be successful. The Steelers, I mean, against Seattle,
they have the talent to do that.
Exactly. You have so much talent. I still, you come out the one side of this with a win, and it is nice to be moving forward and now 3-3 going into the bye. And I think, you're going to be getting Cleveland down a couple guys, and you just never know what could happen. Then you got a couple easy ones. Suddenly, are we 6-3? I don't know. Let's get there before we talk about it. But but my point is on the Roethlisberger thing is still, we played a whole overtime period. He threw 40 passes and still 229 yards. I mean, that's not. We're not going to be seeing Roethlisberger of 5 years ago. But if he can minimize mistakes and he can minimize turnovers, I thought he was good on Sunday. I didn't think he was exceptional. I thought he was good.
I saw probably about 5 plays that were left on the field. Okay. And I would say that of those 5 plays, 2 of them were not Ben Roethlisberger's fault.
Sure. There was the one where he scrambled and threw it to Deontay, and that was Deontay's first drop of the year. That was a really tough catch. That was a really tough catch.
See, I'm glad you picked up on that too. That was his first drop of the year.
Yeah.
So in your video, I believe you very definitely mentioned that he did turn that corner.
Oh yeah, no, I am sold on Deontay Johnson. He is turning into a really high level talent. He's clearly the guy Ben has the most trust in.
I agree, and I would not want to put him in the same breath as AB because I wouldn't want to put anybody else in that same breath.
No, that's a ridiculous comparison. People just think of that because they're small, they have good separation, good route running, but not the same player.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying now. All right, I got you now. Because I wouldn't want to. I mean, I'm not trying to offend anybody or anything like that, but let's face it.
No,
AB clearly had some issues.
Listen, AB's AB. That's
right.
Sorry, so that's rarefied air for me. That's like saying, like saying Chase Claypool's like Terrell Owens. Well, you got to do it for about 5 or 10 years before we're gonna have that conversation. Okay.
I mean, Terrell Owens is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, look, Chase Claypool. I thought his game is starting to mature. Because I saw some things that he did when he didn't have the ball that were very good. Like the block that he had with the one run with Najee on the outside there.
Yep.
Where he got, I think it was like a 20-yard or 19-yard chunk, and he was out there lead blocking.
You know what I mean? He's got to be able to learn to use his size a little bit more advantageously, but he's showing that he's willing to do that. He just needs to do it. He needs to do it.
Yes.
I said this with the guys yesterday, but I think you look at Claypool, you look at his body type, you say, wow, this guy could be anything. What I see, though, is I see a guy who's not sure if he is supposed to be Randy Moss or if he's supposed to be Terrell Owens. In my opinion, Claypool is supposed to be way more like Terrell Owens on the field. I see him as a guy who should just be bulking up. He should be taking on all defenders, winning those jump balls. I don't see him as a deer, gazelle, Randy Moss clone. I see him as a guy who, if he's going to be successful in this league, it's going to be because he can use that size to go over the middle and jack people up.
All right. Well,
like I would say it this way, not talking about the caliber of players, but just when you talk about physical types, I see him much more as like a DK Metcalf than I do like an AJ Green. You know what I'm saying? I don't see him as a sprinter. I see him as a guy who needs to use his physicality, because straight line speed, I don't ever think he's really going to be a run past you, Martavis Bryant, kind of take the top off guy.
I mean, right. I mean, it's exactly what you said. It's not going to be the Randy Moss type guy where he's maybe more of like, I mean, I don't want to try to compare him to anybody. You know what I mean? But I would like to see him be more of somebody like a Chris Carter.
Yeah, I think Carter and Owens is a pretty fair comparison. I went with those two because
receivers.
Yeah, I went with those two because they're guys that people think of from the same era and generation, but had very different skill sets. Terrell Owens, say whatever you want about Owens off the field. That dude was a gamer on the field. That guy playing the Super Bowl with that broken leg, man, big ups for that. I'll never say a harsh word about Owens on field. Dude was a baller.
I'm going to say this. I have my opinions about football players and men who play football. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Right. So my opinion about his football abilities are, yes, he's probably Hall of Fame worthy. I mean, I didn't necessarily agree with it all the way, but I could see why he would be considered.
Yeah, he's one of the. I mean, statistically, one of the best players. 16,000 yards.
Right. So, as the person playing football, yes, I could see why he was considered and everything else like that. That aside, don't necessarily agree with everything else that he is or about or says or anything like that. But when it comes to the football side of it, the truth of the football side of it is that, yeah, guy was pretty darn good. Now, you know what I mean? You can't deny the fact that he was good. I mean, it's like
7 years with 13 or more touchdowns. It's pretty
You
crazy.
name how many other receivers have done that?
Oh, not a lot, I bet. I mean, shoot, AB, we watched him have an amazing career, and he had, I think, 15 once and 12 once, and he never topped
Never.
13
And
besides
he
that.
had 6 solid years at
Oh, he had
Pittsburgh where he
arguably the
was
best 6 year stretch in league history.
right. Okay, and still was not able to get that many touchdowns in a season.
DeAndre Hopkins has only hit 13 once.
And there you go.
Owens did it 7 times in the 90s, dude, and the early 2000s. It's impressive.
Like, okay, so football part of it, yes. Yeah. Okay, I can't believe we're talking about this guy,
hey,
but anyway.
Just organic.
You know. But getting back to the black and gold.
Yes, of course, because we were talking about Chase Claypool.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I really look. We both talked about this right before the draft, and we really felt that with the selection of Najee and then the selection of Fairmouth, and then the development of the bank Chase Claypool. I'm actually leaning more towards Mapletron.
The only reason I don't like Mapletron, do you know this? This is why I take a little bit of an issue with that one, is because Claypool's from Vancouver. They make the maple syrups over on eastern side of Canada. He's from essentially Seattle. All I'm saying is it's a little culturally appropriative to Canada. And I wouldn't want to assume that all of Canada makes maple syrup, because I think that's more of a east. I know that's a little stickler thing with Canada.
Is he a One Nation guy?
What do you mean? Is he just I think he's just Canadian all the way.
No, but I mean, like, is he indigenous? Is he?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know that he's. I don't know much about him. I always laughed at that because he is from Vancouver, which is like literally being from Seattle, basically. So it's always cracked me up that
all right. Well,
he's not exactly Sidney Crosby, you know what I mean? He's not from like the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
But Claypool, I think that the thing with Claypool is I think he has to be able to use his physicality a little bit more, and I think he's got to start coming down with those 50-50 balls just 10-15% more.
So, like I said, he's learning his craft, and you can see that his maturation is happening right in front of us.
Sure.
Each week he gets better, whether he gets the ball or not. You know what I mean? And so I think that this might not be based off of how he played his rookie year, right? This might be considered not a breakout season for him.
Yeah.
Okay. And now with Juju down, you're going to see a lot more dependency on him.
Oh, he's going to get a lot of targets.
Exactly.
There's no question about it. I think
exactly.
One of the things that was surprising coming out of this game, and there are some people in the chat were talking about the tight end situation earlier and stuff like that, and I think the division of labor among eligibles, which would be a sentence Tomlin would say, is definitely something worth talking about, because I know everybody coming out of that game was surprised to see that James Washington only had 8 snaps on offense. And now I'm not somebody who thinks that James Washington is exceptional or anything. I think he's just a solid, NFL player, but he's been here a long time. And, I'm just really confused about what they think they're getting out of McLeod that they wouldn't be getting out of Washington.
Okay, thank you.
Because Washington is a willing and capable blocker, so he helps you in the run game. He's not gonna. The only thing I can think of with McLeod is they think that he helps in terms of pushing the safeties back a little bit because he is fast. But what good is it? It's like, Hayward Bay. When we had Hayward Bay, it's like, yeah, you'd run him on some goes, but if Ben's never even going to look at him, what the hell's the difference?
Or if he's not going to be able to even get the ball
near to exactly. Him. I like the guy, and I think he's a good, 5th receiver or whatever, But I'm not like a big Ray McLeod guy. I really don't see what you get out of him, even as a return man. I'll take heat for saying this, but I kind of hate him as a return man. People talk about his average per kick return, and yeah, the yardage per kick return is high, but that's because he keeps taking it out of the end zone. He keeps taking it out of the end zone. Nobody takes it out of the end zone anymore, okay? The Ravens didn't even take one out of the end zone, I don't think, until last week. No one does. Just take it at the 25. Just take it.
Ray needs to take a knee.
Yes, that's exactly what he does. He needs to give himself up in the end zone.
Look, we even kind of touched on this a little bit last time too, like when AB was doing it. You know, it's like these guys have this mentality where they think, yeah, it doesn't matter how deep I am in the end zone, I can make it.
Yeah, but AB at least could house that once in a while.
Right.
I mean, Ray, I don't know, man. I don't see it. I feel more comfortable with him, at least on punts, than I did Deontay, because I hated Deontay on punt returns. Every time was like rolling the dice.
Yeah.
It was like playing Russian roulette.
It was. All right. So
I'm much more of a mind. Slay me if you want. I'm personally more comfortable with a Ryan Switzer. Just, they're going to catch it, run forward for 5 yards. That's fine. I've always been of the opinion a lot more can go wrong than can go good on a kick return.
Okay, so
kill me if you want. It's my opinion. It's how I value the position.
I am so glad that you brought this up. Okay, I really am, because first of all, I am also scratching my head on two things. Why is it that James Washington only had 8 snaps and Ray had how many? Like 20?
No, he had like 50 something. He's essentially a starter now. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he had like 50 snaps.
He's
essentially
the starter over Jay Wash, really?
I mean, Washington had 8 snaps, dude. I mean, they do a lot of multiples with the tight ends and stuff, but I don't have the snap counts in front of me, but I believe that Ray played like 40 plus.
Ray needs to be sitting. I'm sorry.
I don't know what they think they're getting. I'm not sure what they think they're getting out of him.
Here's the thing. This is what I'm scratching my head about. Okay, if you're going to have him returning kicks, then teach the guy how to frickin' do it. And then if not, then put Derek Watt back there or bring back Ray Switzer, because, oh my gosh, at least that guy knew when to take a knee.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I'm somebody who not very enamored with. I've never been enamored, especially now in the last several years where they've continued to do everything they can to get rid of the kickoff return. Frankly, if the NFL just ditched the kickoff return and you just started at the 25, I would lose no sleep over it whatsoever. I would be okay with that. I don't... If it's that big of a problem that you're going to outlaw every element of the play to where it's almost impossible to get an onside kick, it's almost impossible to get a kickoff return, ditch it. I don't care. Would it make that big of a difference? Not really.
Here's my opinion.
I mean, do you really think about the great kickoff returns in NFL history? I mean, they're happenstance more often than not.
So here's my opinion on this, right? And the reason why they won't ever do this. Because when you get a kickoff and a kickoff return, then you get 6 minutes of commercials.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
that's true.
Before the other team takes the field, right? So a team scores, you get a commercial after the team scores, then you come back for the extra point and the kickoff, then you get another round of commercials.
This is true.
Right? And then after that round of commercials, then you get the team, all right, it's 1st and 10.
Yeah, no,
so
it's true.
If they get rid of the kickoffs, then they lose 12 minutes of commercial time.
Oh yeah, no, it is that is how most of it is dictated in the NFL, sadly. I do have to say, yeah, Chris in the chat says Ray's like top 5 in returns. His average is high, but that's exactly what I said. He keeps taking it from 3 or 4 yards. You get credit for how deep you are in the end zone. So if he's taking it from 3 yards deep in the end zone and he only gets to the 18, that's a 21-yard return, and you're starting 7 yards shy of where you would have otherwise. So it can be
just taken a knee.
That stat can be very misleading sometimes. I do just caution people on that one.
Yeah, no, I agree.
X in the chat says, let Anthony McFarland return the kicks because why not? And I think they put him back there a little bit last year. I'm very interested to see what his usage is going to be like when he's back, because I was under the impression in training camp that he was going to get a lot of work on offense. I mean, obviously Najee's the bell cow, but I really thought it seemed like McFarland has a place in the offense. And I'm wondering, maybe that's a little bit of what we're seeing with Ray in that maybe that's where, because McFarland's straight line speed, one of the fastest guys on the team.
I was just going to say,
yeah,
he's faster than Ray.
Yeah, so you wonder if maybe he's playing sort of that position, because Ben even alluded to it on the the stampeding a Brontosaurus touchdown, where somebody asked him about that play call, and he said, well, it's not necessarily a play to Ebron, it's a play to whoever would have been in that position. And, that gets you thinking like, oh, okay, this is a system, so maybe it's not a matter of this person can do this person can do that. Maybe with James Washington, whatever it is, maybe it's just Canada doesn't see them as a scheme fit for whatever reason. I don't know, man. We've watched James Washington do some stuff. I don't get how he's not worthy of more than 8 snaps, especially with Juju going out, even just from a, talent management standpoint. Yeah. Come on. Like, the guy's already unhappy. Juju goes out. He can't get 20, 25 snaps. Is he that much of a hindrance? I don't get it.
The fact that you're putting Ray in over him?
Ray played 52 snaps, 69%.
Even Cody White, I think, would have been a better...
Yeah, he got in a good bit the previous week. He didn't play any offensive snaps this week.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, though? It's like, I don't get why they keep hanging. And then here's my other thing that I'm scratching my head about. You pay for... You spend all this money for the most expensive fullback, and then he plays...
Yeah, but he played 25 special team snaps.
Okay.
I'll give you. I've told you with why I saw him as a replacement for Tyler Matakevich just as much as he was a fullback. He's a special teams player.
Okay, but here's what my issue is, though. Okay, if you're going to be having Najee be the bell cow, why not put a bell cow driver there to help out?
You would think, but they don't seem to really love that or value that position in the offense.
I'm not a fan of the whole single back set thing. I'm just not a fan of it, because to me it is a waste of it's the percentage of time that is successful compared to the percentage of time that it's not successful.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you on that, but I think that, there are reasons that the league is moving that way, and I think a lot of it has to do with the speed, and I think more of the running game has to do. Look at Tennessee. You watched Tennessee last night. They don't really go with a fullback, and granted, they don't need one because their running back is so good, but even in those offenses, though, you create the running game. That's with true. Motion. You're creating it, and so I think there is this tendency
good blocking too.
Yeah, there is this tendency to go and look at what we've seen in the past and so on and so forth. But I think Canada's a smart dude, and if he really thought that a fullback in the offense would help the run game, why wouldn't he want to do it? Of course, they want to help the run game. I just think where you're gonna see the run game get better is, one, this offensive line continuing to get better.
Exactly.
And two, just the play calling in general, these sweeps to Deontay, these things, when they start to work and you start to get Claypool involved with that, you start getting now Pat involved on these third down targets a little bit more. And then suddenly you're a little bit more multiple with what you can do. For as much as everybody thought the running game, by the way, I just have to say there's like 4 times as many people watching this as have hit that like button. So please make sure you do that. It's very important on the YouTube. Make sure you do that. And also, it helps us big time if you download the show after the fact on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Make sure you drop a rating, particularly with Apple. Will help us rank. So I'm going to put the link in the chat. And if you can go there and give us a 5-star rating on the Apple Podcast platform, that would be dope.
Super.
But the offense, yeah, it's going to get better as they get more multiple with what they can do. And I think you're starting to see that develop. I think going into the bye, it's going to be really exciting because one of the things you see oftentimes post-bye is rookies having a greater impact. And we could say what we want about the offensive line. I thought Kendrick Green was starting to look a little bit like a player last week. He's finishing things. He's nasty. The guy's a pit bull. He has the want to. I think you're going to see him start to get better. But I got to say, the one rookie Najee, look, Najee to me, people talked about the run game not really improving this much this week because they look at the totals. They say, okay, he had 27 carries for 80 yards or something like that. I don't have the stats.
But he also had a number of catches for a couple of yards too. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Oh yeah. I'm sorry. 24 for 81, but his impact on that game got greater as it went on. That field goal drive to go ahead at the end of regulation was mostly Naj. I mean, they knew it was coming, and he was getting chunks, 8, 9, 10 yards. What you're going to see with him is his vision getting better. He still is missing some stuff that he won't be missing by the end of this year / next year. He's a kid. He's still trying to figure it out. As talented as he is, he's not a finished product. I think if he was a second or third year player, that 24 carries would have gone, instead of 81, probably would have gone for like 126. I really think he did leave some yardage out that he's just not seeing, but I'm not worried about him. But post-bye, the guy I'm really excited about as far as rookies, Pat Freiermuth, man, he is just continuing to impact this offense.
You're welcome.
And he is just getting clutch third down conversions. He has one of the highest completion percentages of any target in the league. And I'm just so excited for what the future holds for that man.
So here's an interesting stat for you. In his Penn State career, he never dropped a red zone catch or
not
pass.
One target, yeah.
Not one time did he drop a red zone target during his Penn State career.
No, he's sticky.
Now I don't know about you, but that to me just speaks volumes about this kid's dedication to what he's doing. I mean, every week he gets better. Every week he gets more targets. Every week he gets bigger, better catches, and every week he gets more yak. You know, I mean, I wouldn't even compare him to anybody. I would give him his own. I can't compare him to anybody because I've never seen.
I see so much Jason Witten, and that excites me. That's high praise for me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll go with you on that. I will go with you on that.
I just see a guy that just knows
caught everything.
He just knows how to play the position. I pointed out on the show. He had that one first down completion where you don't watch it on the tape and say, "Wow, that guy's a athlete," even though he's a great athlete, etc. But it's just knowing where to go. And he found this little spot, and he just settled down in it, and he knew how to be available for Ben. And that's what the great tight ends do. It's not about, sure, Gronkowski's amazing, and he beat you by just being a better athlete, and he's the best, and so on and so forth. But the guys that stick out to me at that position are the Jason Wittens, where you're like, I could beat Jason Witten in a race. But he would get open 95 times out of 100, and I would never. It's just knowing how to do it.
Yeah. You know, he also, not only does he have the physical body to do it, but he also has the speed. I mean, Freiermuth is not slow.
No, yeah, he is, yeah.
He's not like lumbering down the field, you know.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't mean to imply that, no.
Right. So, but, I mean, yeah, he's not
He's just not
He's not
exactly
gonna
like
be able
Kyle
to-
Pitts or somebody. He's not a freak. He's not an athletic
Right.
freak. He's just
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, it's not like he's the slowest guy on the
No,
team, but
no. Yeah, I didn't mean
all
that.
right, I got you. All right. But the fact that he just seems to be coming more and more into his own as these games progress, he has become more and more of a factor. And I would really like to see him become more and more of, well, I think we will, but we just don't get into the red zone.
That's true. Yeah, the
You
offense
know
is
what I
still
mean? Like,
not what
we
you would
just,
call efficient.
yeah, like we don't really have a lot of red zone attempts because we're not really there. We're either like from the 50 and get in, or we don't really have a lot of red zones. And the stuff that we do have in the red zone, we've been successful, but it's been really close, like runs or sweeps or little dirt passes that he's had already. That first game against Buffalo where he had that touchdown catch, that was only like a 2 or 3 yard throw.
Yeah, you're talking about Pat. Yeah, that was that little shovel. That was like that little shovel they've been doing forever, way back to Hines and the Maddox days. That was as old as that play gets. That's been in the playbook since Roethlisberger was in college.
That's what I mean, though. But it only goes down as a 2 or a 3 yard throw, or
Yeah.
So, but I tell you what, like I said, watching him play in college and being an impact player in college, and now watching him become an impact player on Sundays, for my team. Hey, all right, bonus, and I think the ceiling is we haven't seen the ceiling on him yet.
No, I would agree, and I don't think you're going to see that for a little while, but he's going to be a successful NFL player. I have no doubt about that. I feel very strongly about, both him and Naj, and honestly at this point, probably Presley Harvin. I say those are the three rookies that I'm absolutely sold. They're going to be Pittsburgh Steelers in the next 5 years, making Pro Bowls and so on and so forth.
Exactly.
I think Kendrick's got a chance to be a high quality player. I'm still not necessarily sold that he's going to be the center of the future. I think he might actually be a guard masquerading as a center, but we'll see. I still think he'll be a good player.
He does have that body. He has a much better guard body than a center body.
I just see the way he moves, and I see why they want him to be a center, but I'm just not sure I'm buying it. I feel like he's a guard in center's clothing, if that makes sense.
No. Because a lot of times what they'll do is especially like guards will learn the center position because it gives them more flexibility of playing more positions on the line. And
exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's why a lot of tackles do the same thing. They'll learn how to play center, or you know what I mean. You'll see a lot. Sometimes tackles can move in and play guards, but he does seem to have that like guard's body, because you need more of a guy that has a bit of a stouter frame, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he could put it on. He could put it on. You'll see. We'll see. His body is not a finished product at this point. True. As a rookie.
And he's a rookie.
Yeah, it's not. I don't mean it as a knock. I just for something. Somebody mentioned that a while back, and I just continue to just like. I just see it. I don't know. Maybe it's just because he's not a first round guy, but I can't get over. I look at Creed Humphrey, who was such a draft crush of mine, and I'm like, that dude's. That's a guy you're drafting to be your center. That's going to be Mahomes' center for the next 15 years. You know what I mean? He's going to be getting that contract right alongside him. You look at Pouncey, Dermontti Dawson. Dermontti is a guy who I hold in the highest regard, and maybe they're similar sizes on paper. I'm not sure, but it's just it is what it is. But I will say, as far as the rookies go, they're asking a lot out of them because we knew they were going to need that, and they've mostly delivered. 2 off the beaten path ones. Man, Trey Norwood. We've been talking about it since week 1, getting a ton of playing time. He was not just a contributor. He was a plus player on Sunday. He was one of the best players. I thought initially after the game, when I thought, who are my 3 stars? I said, TJ, obviously, I mean, almost single-handedly won the game. Give him the freaking, give him the award this year, will you? Enough.
I mean, we didn't even say one peep about him yet.
He literally single-handedly won that game, and he actually did it twice. Roethlisberger just couldn't put a drive together the first time, and he said, "Oh crap, I got to go do it again."
I know, yeah.
So you go him, and then you go Cam, who's just been unbelievable. I mean, Cam has just been. I've never seen a guy whose second half of his career has been so much better than the first half. Not that he wasn't good
every year,
but he's gotten so good, and now it's like every snap he's a game changer. But right up there, when I really thought about it, I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you put gun to my head, I probably put Najee as that 3rd star, but. You could make a case that Trey Norwood he had 3 stops on huge 3rd downs. That first one early on DK Metcalf, who's a freaking monster. Hello? In the open field, rookie, 7th round. Welcome to the NFL, bub.
Right?
Wow. Impressive.
We talked about the draft this year being something that we were a little bit concerned about, but we were also a little bit excited about, because we felt there were going to be a number of these draft picks that were going to make an impact on the team this year. And gosh,
for sure.
All you have to do is just go through the list on both sides of the ball. There are guys that are making impact on this team that are rookies.
I mean, you go down the list, almost all of them are playing. You go 1st round Najee, 2nd round Pat. They're both starters. Kendrick 3rd round, he's a starter. Dan Moore 4th round, he's a starter. Buddy Johnson's probably about the only guy who was drafted who isn't playing a whole lot.
Right.
And then who was it? And then they I don't remember what they did. Loudermilk's been playing a lot. Loudermilk played a ton of snaps.
Too, yeah.
I don't have the defensive snap. I do have this defensive snap counts in front of me. He played, only 8 snaps. I thought it felt like more, but he's gotten on the field a good bit.
He has a jersey. That means he's on the team.
Yeah, he does. And this, I guess, leads me, we were talking about the rookies, but this leads me into something I said I responded to somebody in the chat earlier, and he wanted me to bring up, and this will get us into the conversation on the defense, which I think is, if you're going to really come out of a real negative in this one, I don't know, man. Just like a couple weeks ago, we sat here saying, wow, if only the quarterback was better. I come out of this one, the defense did win this game. Don't get me wrong. They made the big play when it mattered. Not good enough, though. And it's getting questionable, and I know they're a little shorthanded. But how do you assess what the defense is doing right now? And do you have faith or confidence that it's going to get better? Because I know we expected an elite unit, and I think they're playing about league average right now, to be honest.
Yeah, we don't have an elite unit.
I think they're I haven't looked at stats, but to me that's an average defense with great playmakers who are capable. You're always 1 second away from TJ, Cam, or Joe or Minka making a big play, but the fact is they're not doing it. And turnovers come in bunches, but they're really not happening. I know it's funny, we just won based off of one, but generally speaking, right. It's not happening.
Yeah. I said this the last couple of shows that we've done, but you can't fix what's broken in one game or 1 week. Mm-hmm. It's something that's going to be an ongoing, continual, this whole thing is going to be a, work in progress the whole way through. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think there's necessarily an identity yet with this defense.
But but why though? It's the same defense of the last couple of years. I know a couple of players are different, but the offense, I accept that. But the defense, we're looking at the same coordinator, same system, couple new pieces, but predominantly the same team that's been here.
Well, one of the new pieces that I've been really, really, really excited about has been Alex Highsmith.
Yeah. He finally got home a little bit this week.
I mean, oh my gosh, man! Finally seeing that kid come to fruition. He was a draft pick last year.
Yeah, he was a high draft pick considering where he went to school.
Second round, I think he was.
He was their second pick, but third round.
Yeah, okay,
Because
okay,
they didn't have the first because of Minka.
Yeah. All right, yeah, but still, I mean, and the fact that he's an impact player now and starting now and everything, and I think actually I like him with TJ better than I like Bud.
I mean, that's such a legendary pairing. What they did for those last 2 years, I gotta see a little bit more havoc get raised until I say that I'm gonna be there. But I think
Alex Highsmith is got a higher ceiling than Bud.
I agree. But what I would say is I'm not seeing that whole pass rush tandem thing. There's a chemistry there. It's almost like basketball.
Yeah,
and
it's not there yet.
We're not seeing that. Like Bud and TJ, the last 2 years they knew how to work with each other. That's why they both benefited so greatly.
I think we'll see it.
You definitely will.
I see, and that's what I think, that's where you're seeing the whole fact that TJ missed all of preseason and all of training camp and everything, and not getting a single snap until the first game of the season, and now suddenly you're putting on the shoulder pads and going, all right, I'm ready.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
The only way to get better at football is to play football.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but that's just, there's no other way to get better. Look, everybody can sit here and say this. Yeah, there's mental reps. And yeah, there's this. And yeah, there's that. But look, until you put the shoulder pads on, put the knee pads on, put the mouthpiece on, put the helmet on, and strap up the chin strap, and put your hand in the dirt, that's the only way you're going to get any better at this game.
Exactly right. And, speaking of playing a lot, I think one of the things that always stands out to me when you look at the snap counts for the Steelers defense, their top 4 secondary guys, both starting safeties and both starting corners, Joe, Minka, Cam, Sutton, and Edmonds. They play 100% of snaps every week.
And you know what? Not many backfields in the defense are saying that.
Oh, yeah, no. And I mean, Minka, Terrell, Edmonds, and Cam Sutton, that is what it is. Good for them. Joe Hayden out there, 32, running down the field with receivers. The guy doesn't miss a snap. Are you kidding? That says something to his conditioning at that age, at that position. So nothing but love for Joe. Him? I know. I love Joe, man. Like nothing but love. Easily my number one Steeler that I most want to just I want to hang out with. I just think I just love me some Joe Hayden. Just positive vibes. I love the guy, but I do want to give credit. The reason I brought that up because I wanted to say somebody who has played a lot since they came into this league and has taken a lot of flack, and I really think has turned into a nice football player is Cookie's favorite son, Terrell Edmonds. The guy, I think, is turning into a nice football player. When's the last time you really were like, Edmonds? Like, I've said for the longest time, if you're going to have an elite defense, somebody's going to be the 10th or 11th best player on the defense. That's okay. It's going to be the case. But I don't think he's that anymore. I am impressed with Terrell Edmonds. I really hope they're able to lock him down, get another deal put together, because I don't want him to leave. I think he's moving in the right direction. He's still like 24 years old. I
agree. And they did not pick up his 5th-year option from his rookie contract.
But on the safety market, the way that works, it's probably not. I don't think that was because they're not interested in him. I think that was because you're going to very likely be able to put a deal together that's going to be more team favorable than what that predetermined number was. So
I see. Okay.
Because that market's just not huge for people at his position.
That's true. That's true.
That's determined by statistics. Like that's, those options are determined by like where you're picked.
Yeah. And you're always like, Pittsburgh has always been where the free safety has always been like the centerpiece. I mean, Troy and all that other stuff. And then Ryan Clark was like, Robin. Mm-hmm. Like you never heard anything about him. he just quietly went about his business and made the plays, and those receivers never made those plays, and those touchdowns never happened for those receivers because he just quietly did his job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Edmonds is doing. He's just quietly doing his job, right? Breaking up plays and doing so nobody throws over there.
No, and the guy, it's just it sounds like a little thing, but the dude is available. The guy has played almost every damn snap since he's been in the league, and I give him a lot of credit.
That says a lot too about a player when you're available.
No, I do. I think it's,
I don't care if you're a Hall of Fame player or if you're an all-star, 20-time Pro Bowler. If you're on the sideline, what good are you?
How about this stat, okay? Passer rating when targeted. As a rookie, 83. As a second-year player, 131.6. That was that 2019 defense. Clearly the weak point on that defense. I got a lot of love for that defense. They kept us in... they kept the whole season interesting when literally nothing was happening on the other side of the ball. But 2020, only a 70.8, and 2021 so far, only a 58.9 passer rating when Terrell Edmonds is targeted. That's numbers. That's
getting significantly better.
58 passer rating is a poor passer rating. I mean, that's
for quarterbacks. Yeah.
That's pretty good, man.
I have to agree. I mean, when you break down the analytics of players, and you actually get to see what they're actually doing when it comes to the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's where you get to see sometimes players that don't necessarily show up on, the highlight reel,
mm-hmm.
but yet, and they don't show up in the newspaper, but yet they show up on the, you look at the box scores and you see, targets for Terrell Edmonds was, maybe it was only 6, but no catches. Right?
Yeah.
Or, there's only 3 catches on 6 targets.
Yeah. No, I mean,
and he's not giving up the big plays, and he's not, letting people get up over top of him. You know what I mean? And so he's keeping everything in front of him.
No, I've been impressed with him. I continue to think he's moving in the right direction. And,
I concur.
And I think it's tough to assess players like that because of exactly what you said. The stats don't always the stats don't always tell the whole story of everything. But we're talking about a guy now. 6 games is a decent enough sample size. If it's going to be a big enough sample size that people are going to start talking down on Minka Fitz for having a rough start, then I think it's a large enough sample size to start talking about Terrell Edmonds having a great start. So,
all right.
Hey, that is, I mean, yards per completion only 9.8, down from 14.5 last year. The guy's doing work. Only 8 completions allowed in 6 games so far. The Minka thing. What do you think about that? Do you have concern there, or you just realize, like, my feeling is it's just the nature of turnovers in the NFL. They just happen and then they don't. They come in bunches.
Well,
I'm not worried about Minka Fitzpatrick.
Right now, it seems like the turnovers that are happening for the Steelers are either strip sacks or fumbles.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so that's just kind of seems to be the trend that's happening this year instead of interceptions. Because let's face it, the quarterbacks that the Steelers have faced, Aaron Rodgers has very few interceptions.
That's true. To be fair, they've played pretty good quarterbacks, with the exception of Teddy.
Doesn't really throw the ball to other teams.
No, Carr played the game of his life. He was on fire in the first month of the season.
Right, and I think Josh only threw he threw 1 interception.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen, but he doesn't throw interceptions a lot. So I mean, the caliber of quarterbacks that they've been playing has really not.
Yeah, no, it doesn't dictate. It's not like last year when they were playing Jake Luton and Cooper Rush or whoever the hell that guy was.
You're right. Now, I will say this, though. With the emergence of what Cam Hayward has been able to do and TJ Watt on the defensive line and then batting balls, I think you're going to start seeing more of those types of interceptions now because 3 games in a row now where Cam has had at least one or multiple paws up to bat balls down. TJ Watt had a couple this past game as well too. I mean,
Oh, TJ had that one where I thought he just snagged it out of midair. It looked like that. Remember that interception he had against the Giants last year, week 1? There was one where it looked like he just sucked it right into his midsection, but it went right down.
Right.
But
that's what I mean. When you get those kinds of things happening, see, those things make the balls pop up in the air, and when the balls pop up in the air, then it's a chance for the defense to scoop it up, and those things happen.
I just want to say, this is totally off topic, but because you said balls popping up in the air like that, underrated great play in that game. Chase Claypool made a phenomenal defensive effort on that ball. Remember, it was one of the scoring drives because they were near the red zone, and Ben threw one and it got tipped up in the air and it was in the air for like 5 minutes. And Claypool made a great play to come back at the ball and bat it away from the defender. I just have to call things like that out because I love plays like that. That's some Hines Ward stuff right there. Love to see it.
Yeah, man. I do remember that play, and it's like you can see the ghost of the Psycho Ward.
No, and you need every bit of that you can get, especially with Juju out. So bottom line, you don't have any concern about Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Not necessarily with Minkah or anything like that. I mean, these guys are all pretty much opportunists, ball hawks. When the ball is there and available, they're going to be around it and getting it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the opportunities haven't necessarily been there. Okay, this last time with playing against Geno Smith, I thought there was going to be more of an opportunity to have some interceptions because this was his first start since 2017.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, and I felt that the defense would probably be a little bit more akin to interceptions against him than any of the other teams that we've played so far.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, I'll take strip sacks too.
All day. Don't get me wrong.
Okay, I'll take those too. They spend just the same.
While we're on the defensive situation, I know a lot was made today about the situation with young number 55, Devin Bush, because somebody asked Keith Butler about, well, what's the deal with putting Robert Spillane in for a few snaps in past, dime situations? And his answer was, by the way, Spillane played 10 snaps on defense, so let's not blow this out of proportion, but it is something I saw people talking about. He said, well, sometimes he's better at certain things than those guys are or whatever. I think what he was getting at there is just that Schobert has some ability as a blitzer, maybe. He has some ability against the run. I don't know. I'm not sure what we're seeing with Devin Bush. I think I've been harder on him than a lot of people in this fan base because what I believe is that the Steelers have just miscast him. I think he's really just I think they wanted him to be the next Shazier because you look at the on paper athleticism. To me, he's just a really elite athletic buck linebacker. He's not the next evolution of Ryan Shazier. He's the next evolution of Vince Williams. And that's okay. But you can't ask Vince Williams, like when Shazier went out, they tried to ask Vince because he was good, he knew the defense, to be Shazier, and he's not that. And I think that's the case with Bush. I think that's why they got Schobert, and I continue to be very impressed with Joe Schobert. I think he's been, as far as on field,
Melvin Ingram too.
Yeah, as far as on field, I actually think Schobert's probably been the most impactful outside acquisition that they got this year. Because that guy's just a football player, man. He's just a football player. I was aware of him in Cleveland and Jacksonville, and I was so hyped about that from the start. But I think he's bringing a lot to the table. Bush, though, what do you think about that? Because like I said, I'm usually harder on him, but I saw this talk today, and I'm like, the guy, he just had surgery almost exactly a year ago. He's been banged up a little bit. His role changed with Schobert coming in. I give him some slack. He's 23. I don't know. Where do you sit with that?
He did miss a whole year after showing a lot of promise. Look, I think he's one of our better linebackers on the roster, period.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I don't really care if the defensive coordinator feels that there's a guy on the defense that can cover a certain specific receiver that they might happen to be playing that specific week.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a better matchup, Spillane, than it is with Bush.
Mm-hmm.
So what? You have all of these tools in your tool chest that you bring to the game.
Right.
Right? And Spillane and Bush are tools in your tool chest.
Right. I love it.
Right? And you go to the game and you're playing up against a team that's got pretty decent tight end, pretty decent receiver, blah, 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 blah. Hey, I got Bush going up against him, and I like Spillane going up against him. When that guy's on the field, Spillane, you get out on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're using the right tool for the job. We talk.
I love it. Yep.
All Mike T talks about is situational ball.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You're hitting on an excellent point there. I'll say about Bush, I still think the potential's there. I think we've just, as a fan base, had a little bit of a fundamental misunderstanding of the player he is. Kid's still 23. Like, he's 23. He did miss
a whole year.
Yeah.
With an ACL.
Yeah, and I mean he's 23 years old. I'm not, and you know what? I'll tell you this: if you want to give Devin Bush a hard time, go ahead. All I know is when I was trying to pick my jersey last week, feeling pretty down, I went with number 55, and that's what I wore the last 2 games. So I'm saying.
So now we know what your contributions are.
All I'm saying is, and he did have that huge sack last week against Teddy Bridgewater. I'm just saying, pump the brakes a little bit. Let's not, people did this with Bud. They did this with, Terrell Edmonds. They've done this with Juju. It's going to be like, just let the guy get into the system. Let him learn it. Let's pump the brakes a little bit.
He's still finding his way.
Yeah.
Right. This is really only his second year.
He's played probably.
Well, no, I mean, he's been in the league for 3 years, but this is really only his second year.
Yeah. He played only first 5 weeks last year. Yep.
So that's what I mean. So this is kind of basically only his second year, and then after the 5th week, he was down for the whole season, and he even missed a lot of like training camp and stuff too. He was still working his way back. Him and Banner were basically on the same timeline for the ACLs. Right, they were on the PUP list and everything, and then he was activated like a couple weeks before the first game.
He definitely he's working his way back, man. I can't, elite athletes, you're learning to trust your body again. I'm losing zero sleep over it. Will he ever be? Here's the thing. I hate this thing about the social media age, because now that so many more people follow stuff like the draft and way more people are in on analytics and all this, and I don't mean to take a condescending view of that stuff. I tend to, even though I'm only 31, I tend to take a little bit of more old school mindset. There are going to be people that are going to say, you are never going to get the value that you put into him back. And what they mean by that is trading up to get him, the investment cost. Even at his best, he's still just a middle linebacker. I get it. However, what he offers you just in range alone because of his athleticism changes that defense. You saw it in overtime. Geno Smith, that one big play he made, and that was an absolute dime by Geno Smith. Great throw. Devin Bush goes up, and he misses it with his middle finger by an inch. And you're talking about, this is a middle linebacker who could have broken up a huge play. They never even would have gotten anything going, so on and so forth. he was in the exact right spot. He was exactly where he needed to be. The ball was an inch over his fingertip. I mean, some professionals are going to make good plays. The guy was, like, I don't know.
So,
He's this close. He's this close.
here's how I look at this whole, what you're calling, I guess, a trend or whatever the case is, because people are more tuned in now. People have a lot more access to information
Right
now. All you have to do is pick this up.
Yeah, you got a super computer in your pocket 24 hours a day.
In your pocket. I mean, you could, there's so much more information that you can access to now. And the cool thing is that fans have become super educated fans.
Right.
And that's what makes this even more of a, I don't know, an issue, because now you get these fans that are educated. They look at the analytics and now they're going, well, wait a minute. Why is this guy playing like this? It's only week 6. Why is he playing like this, or whatever? And then I say, well, okay. So he's young. He's still learning this system, because he's only played one. He had his rookie year. He played sparingly in his rookie year, right? And then he only had 5 weeks of the one season, and then he missed the whole season. So I think Bush is going to be one of those players where, because of the injury, it's going to take him a year to get that breakout season. Okay, because when you come back from an ACL, you don't just come back and just plop right back on the field like everything's copacetic. I mean, it's going to take a little while for him to actually trust.
Oh yeah, totally.
The fact that he can run and stuff like that, and that I think in itself may be what might be holding him back some. When you come back from a major injury like that, and then to be as athletic as he is,
right,
and to be as talented as he is. Look, I know what you mean, and he spent a lot of time with Shazier, especially after being drafted, and he was touted as the next Shazier and blah 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 blah. That's not him. That's not his game.
I totally agree.
He's just not that guy. Can he play the buck linebacker to a T? I mean, do you see shades of Singletary in him?
I could.
Like, he just has those crazy eyes that you just don't want to see.
He looks like a dude.
On the other side, you get what I'm saying?
He is a dude who has that thing where you're like, oh, that guy he has no problem messing me up. Like, he's a little crazy. That's what I like about him. He's a little, like, unstable. He kind of just I like him. He's crazy.
Right. You get Singletary off the field.
Yeah.
Beautiful man, whatever you want to call it. On the field, that cat was crazy. Where is Singletary? You had to find out where he was before you snapped the ball. I think Bush is going to be like that.
You hit something on the head with Devin Bush, and it's something I can relate to. I've expressed this a couple times in different formats, but forgive me if I've told this story before. But what I think I could see with Devin Bush, because you just said this, he learning to come back, trust his body. He's a guy who's made his whole career off of elite athleticism, right? Even in Michigan, he didn't have a ton of sacks. He didn't have really many interceptions, but he was a great college football player. And I think I can relate, because when I went to college, I had never studied in my entire life. I didn't need to. I was smart enough to never have to try in high school. And then
you're one of them.
I am. And I get to college, and you guys know I make TV for a living now. When I started college, my major was medical technology. I took one college level chemistry course. I said, whoa, I do not know how to do this. And I realized, like, I made it through my whole academic career never having to put in that extra work. And I'm not saying Devin Bush is lazy, doesn't put in the extra work. I'm not implying that. I'm just saying, do you think there's probably a little bit of an element of, when you're the most athletic person on every team you've ever been on? I mean, no doubt about it. Devin Bush is until he got to the Steelers, was the best player on every team he'd probably ever been on. His dad was in the NFL. Like, you know, not saying he didn't put in the work on the bench and lifting the weights and stuff, but maybe he's just needing to learn how to study, you know, from my scenario. Not literally study, but I'm saying maybe he mentally needs to catch up to where his body is physically.
See, that happens a lot, especially in males, where their body tends to mature before this does.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
You get what I'm saying? So at 23 years of age, he's probably still getting at that point.
He's a kid, man. He's not even done. He's not even hardwired.
Starting to catch up.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I mean, when you were 23 years of age, were you a starting middle linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Bro, when I was 23 years of age, I don't even know who I was. Okay, this is.
Do you remember that? Do you remember when you were? I'm just kidding.
No, this is the thing that we tend to forget about with athletes, and I think it's a really important thing. Us as people who comment on it, it's like I say with Tomlin all the time, where sometimes I'm not on the same page with the football coach, but I have the utmost respect for the man and the person that he is. And I think with players, we have to realize sometimes and take a little bit of a step back and realize that these kids, lots of times that we're talking about, you know, Bud Dupree, so much pressure, first round draft pick, outside linebacker, Pittsburgh Steelers. The guy is 22, 23 years old trying to learn. You know, he played at Kentucky. He's trying to learn what...
no pressure.
You know, he's trying to learn... You come from these guys, like, again, even to go back to Jarvis Jones. I know physically the talent wasn't there. That's a whole situation. But still, you're talking about a guy who at every time he played football his entire life was the best player just by trotting out on the field. And then you ask them to learn these complex things and do this and do that. And I don't know, man. A lot of times we're talking about kids... Terrell Edmonds is 24. Devin Bush is 23. Highsmith is 24. Trey Norwood's 22. What's fair to ask of them? And can we give them a little time to finish baking before we freak
throw them out in the trash or whatever?
You know.
One of the things that I'm gonna say is this: I've been overly impressed with Alex Highsmith.
Yep.
I've been really liking how his game has matured as well, where he's starting to find his groove as well. And so that's where I think where you're seeing Bush and Highsmith and TJ coming in, and then they're Schobert's been going in, Ingram's been slotting in. You see, like, they haven't really built a chemistry yet. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, they're trying to figure out the division of labor. That's
yeah. That's it. Thank you. Okay, so it's gonna take a little while till we figure out that, hey, man, maybe Spillane is better covering this particular type of a receiver than Bush is. And maybe Schobert's better to be in on this particular blitz play than Melvin Ingram is.
That's a hugely important point, because I think you are seeing them develop a defense that is, even though it's still Keith Butler, it's different than it was a couple years ago, because what you're seeing on the back end, and this is one of the things I wrote down on Sunday that I love, is that we're seeing guys on the back end. They're mixing and matching coverages and putting different guys in so you don't know what to expect. We talked about what a nice impact Trey Norwood had. He only played 15 snaps. And he had 3 great third down tackles on 15 snaps. Hello, that's 20% of your plays you had an impact. That's, for defense, impressive. But what they're doing now, I love what's happening now with new Mike Hilton, a.k.a. Arthur Mollett. I thought he's been a plus player the last 2 weeks. He's starting to move around. He's starting to kind of do some of that blitzing stuff. He's not Mike as far as a blitzer, but I think he's probably a better cover guy.
Yeah, and I've been liking Pierre, too.
Yeah, and even Pierre is getting some nice snaps in there, clutch moments both the last 2 weeks. Again, this week, he only played 14 snaps. So you're seeing Mullet kind of take over that slot position and getting the next most snaps after Joe and Cam Sutton, who, by the way, Cam Sutton continues to just be solid. Absolutely just solid.
Making us not miss Nelson at all.
Everything you ask Cam Sutton to do, he does at a high level. I got so much respect for him. He'll never be like a Pro Bowl All-Pro guy, but you need players like Cam Sutton. He's so important. But they're just, they're continuing to mix and match, and I really like what they're doing on the back end of this defense. I guess my question to you, just to put a button on the Devin Bush thing, if you had to lay some money down right now, do you think Devin Bush gets a second contract as a Steeler?
Well,
I mean, the draft position alone they're going to be tempted.
Yeah, that's what makes it hard, because he actually has a year left after this year.
Well, he would have 2 because he was a first-round pick, so he'll definitely get the 5th year at least. You could have him for 3 actually, because you do the 5th in the franchise.
If he continues to trend like he is, if he continues to trend that way and continue to just get better and better week after week after week, then yes, I do feel that he will be worthy of another contract, because Schobert and Ingram are, stopgaps potentially. Highsmith, I think, is going to be more of an impact as well. He's young, up and coming. This is only his 2nd year as well. Bugs is
Davis.
Yes, thank you. Has been playing well.
Bugs has been a real nice positive development this year.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Okay, but you've got a rotation of players in there at linebacker that I think is a good problem to have.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, I agree totally. They're developing an array of talent, like you said, tools for different tasks. And they are certainly doing that. I think they're doing a good job bringing young guys along. And you, this was a challenging, this task. We got on Mike a little bit week 2, week 3, and I'll say this way, okay. I don't take back what I said about Ben, because I do think that Ben was problematic, and I still think Ben ultimately will be, unfortunately, probably the limiter on this season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know what the ceiling is with him. Hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe he continues to play better and better and better and proves me wrong. That's fine. But I will say I give just a skosh, like I'll just like take a little back about the heat on Mike, because man, when you really take a step back and you look at what this team is working with this year, I mean, you're talking about really asking a lot of new faces to contribute right away. And I'm given just a smidge of slack for that, because you don't have the elite quarterback play to mask it anymore. It can it's hard to start off a season. Kansas City's Kansas City, and even they're sitting at 3-3. So I don't know. I'm not saying he was perfect in Oakland or Cincinnati. I definitely still think they should have had better game plans, especially for Cincinnati. But yeah, I'll go back just a smidge on some of the Tomlin heat from a couple weeks ago. But I'll let the 7 stuff stand.
Okay. I get what you're saying, and to nail me down on Bush, I think he will get another contract for the Steelers. I think his ceiling, we haven't seen his ceiling yet, and I think he is one of the best tools in the shed for us when it comes to certain situational football. In the defense, and you're starting to see this now. What I think you were trying to get at is that the defense is starting to scheme now. They're not being reactionary. They're starting to scheme, where they're having a game plan with the defense going into a game.
Right.
Okay. And that in and of itself, I think, is a step in the right direction, to put it mildly.
Right. No, I would agree with that. I like what they're doing. I like what you see happening there. And I don't know. I think cautiously that we're looking at an upward pointed arrow. I don't know. Look, the bye week followed by a tough divisional matchup with Cleveland, I think is going to tell us just about everything we need to know about the course for the rest of this season. Because
I would have to agree.
Because if you get a win, then you have a legitimate chance. You can't look past anything. With the state of this team this year, you can't look past anybody. But if you get Cleveland, if you take care of business with Cleveland, you have a legitimate chance to win 5 games in a row, and you'd be sitting at 6-3. Because after that, you got, I think, the Bears and the Lions, right? And so I know that looks like you're looking far into the future, but sometimes you got to, it's easy for coaches to say we only look 1 week at a time. But, you better believe last week after, Wilson goes down and you're sitting here saying, whoa, like, do the Steelers have a chance? They get this one done, and they Broncos kind of suck. They get this one done, then they get the Seahawks, and then... Yeah, I know, barely, but at the end of the day, I don't care how you got there. I feel a heck of a lot better sitting at the bye at 3-3 than I would have at 1-5 or 2-4. It is what it is. You still gotta beat who you gotta beat, and I'm not gonna take anything away. Look, Seattle. I know Geno Smith is not Russell Wilson. Obviously, that's their franchise guy, but Pete Carroll's a high-level coach. They've won Super Bowls over there. They're a proud franchise. I know they're not what they were 3-4 years ago, but hey, ask Sean McVay about what it's like playing a coach like that down as quarterback when the Rams came into Pittsburgh and got beat by Mason Rudolph a couple years ago. So Geno Smith has been in the league 8 years. It's not like it's not, this is not Jake Luton starting is all I'm saying. Is at least it's a professional. It's a guy who's prepared and worked with Russell Wilson for a couple of years. Like,
I'm with you, but I mean, it was his first start since 2017.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna say it's all roses, but I mean, if you do, my point is, if you don't feel better than you did 2 weeks ago, then you don't want to feel good.
I see a lot of good things. I see a lot of things trending in the right direction. I still see some things that are head scratching, and I still see some things that are red flags. So look, you're never, a wise man once said that there is a perfect season, but there never is a perfect game. Okay. So yes, a perfect season means you win all the games.
Sure.
But let's look at that perfect season, shall we? In game 3, their starting quarterback goes down.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so that was far from a perfect game, or you get what I'm saying?
No, I see what you're saying. There's always imperfections, even in the positives.
Right, and so there's always room to grow. There's always room to learn, and as long as you're learning and the learning is trending in the W column. Then we're all good. If you're learning and you're trending in the L column, then you need to address that.
Right. I would tend to agree with that. I'm willing to allow myself, and maybe it's just the content creator in me, but I'm willing to allow myself to buy back in just a little bit. And I think this could be a team where we really are saying, I don't know how. Just like Buffalo. We've seen the same game now 6 times in a row, honestly. Each game has been one good half, one terrible half, and 3 of them they won because there was a big play made at a big time, and 3 of them they lost because they didn't make the big plays at a big time. It sounds cliche, but we literally have seen the same game 6 times in a row at this point.
Yeah, I mean, from down to the same play calls.
Really 5. I feel like Green Bay was a little bit different. It just that they just kind of got the doors blown off immediately. But the other 5, I think, have almost been the exact same script. But I think that's a positive. I think you're going to see the Steelers do this. But here's the thing. If that's the game script, and as the season goes on, Ben gets more comfortable in the system, Najee gets more effective, the line gets more effective, Freiermuth becomes a bigger part of things, Obviously it sucks losing Juju, but if those other two, 11 and 18, and you figure out the multiplicity with Ebron and Freiermuth both being on the field, I could see this being a team where we're really sitting here. I don't think it's going to be. I'm not gonna put on the rose-colored glasses completely and say, "Oh, we're going to win the Super Bowl." But could this be like a team where, January we're scratching and clawing, and they're a scrappy 9-8 that finds themselves in the dance? Yeah, I don't think that's the craziest thing in the world.
Okay, all right, because my original prognostication of 12-5, I think, is not
That's
in the
out
cards
the door
this year.
Yeah. Yeah. You were a little rosier than me. I think I was at 10-7.
Yeah, you were. Yeah. If I recall, you were. But I will say this. I still think there's a gleam. There's a gleam. And as long as there's that.
Yeah.
Right? As long as there's a shot. As long as you can still look at the standings and go, all right, if the playoffs were to start today, we'd be in.
Right.
Right? So until we can't say that, you know what I mean? Until we play ourselves out of it, because that's the only way it's going to work, right? As long as Pittsburgh plays well and continues to stack things the way they are, they will be successful. Yeah, there's going to be some hiccups and you're going to lose some games here and there, but for the most part should win most of those games. Okay? If it goes the other way, then you know what I mean?
Listen, you just got to keep that oil lamp burning. I think,
pretty much.
The reason I'll never be fully out on a team with Roethlisberger, no matter how he's playing,
right,
is or the Steelers in general, because I remember back, I'm old enough to remember 2 years ago, and I
hope so.
Yeah, and I remember doing the first season of 5-Star Matchup when I stumbled into this thing, and I remember Duck Hodges.
2 years.
What's that?
2 years.
Yeah, 3. This is season 3. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man. Well, hey, happy anniversary.
Yeah, it's all good. But I remember stumbling into doing this, and somewhere around about week 14, Duck Hodges goes to Arizona and beats Kyler Murray, and the Steelers are 8-5 with no starting quarterback. And while the end of that season was disappointing, you couldn't sustain that kind of quarterback play for too long. Obviously, It just catches up with you. But man, we got a whole December of games that were interesting, and we really thought we were going to be watching Duck Hodges play in the NFL playoffs. And to me, if that was the case in 2019, I'm not. As long as you got a puncher's chance, that's all I'm asking for. And I think the 2021 Pittsburgh Steelers have a puncher's chance.
I'm with you because I'm not really sold all the way on Cleveland yet, and I'm not really sold all the way per se on Baltimore or Cincinnati. Look, I think all three of these teams have definitely improved over the last few years. Each team has gotten their own franchise quarterback now, which, all three of those quarterbacks on all three of those teams, let's face it, are much improved over recent history.
Oh, I continue to be the most outwardly impressed in Steelers Nation of Lamar Jackson. Frankly, I love watching the kid play, and I know some people will hate on me for that, but I got to call it how I see it. I get excited watching Lamar Jackson play football. I think the dude's a great football player. I'm
as long as he's not doing it on Heinz Field.
Yeah, I'm over the criticism of him at this point. I think it's now unfair. The dude went 37 of 43 last week in a comeback. All right, come on.
Like I said, man, as long as he's not doing it on Heinz Field.
Exactly.
You got to give credit to where credit's due, and you got to give props to where props are due. Okay, and you have to do that across the board. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? But I agree. As long as Ben is back there, because, and I'm going to come right out and say it, okay, there is not a quarterback on this roster that gives this team a better chance of winning than Ben.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right.
Is Ben the best quarterback in the league right now? Nope.
No.
He's never going to be that. That's never going to be the case. But Ben gives this team the best chance to win every Sunday. And I don't care what anybody wants to say about, Mason this and Mason that. Okay. It's clearly been shown that Mason is not a quarterback that's a starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has proven that he is just not capable of doing that. Okay. Look, you can hate on me all you want, but the truth of the matter is this. There's a reason why he almost lost his starting or his second place job to Haskins.
I would argue that wasn't really ever in danger of happening.
You don't think?
No, that was way more fan perception than actual. There's no way that was actually happening.
Okay.
I see your point. I just think a lot of that was way more perception than it was reality, because Rudolph didn't need the snaps. He's played a ton in the league. Tomlin could have played Haskins way more in preseason if he wanted. He didn't see it. Haskins never put the tape down. It's just the truth. True. I'm sorry. Some people never wanted to acknowledge it, but that dude was a number one pick. He played at Ohio State. He was playing fourth stringers in the second half of preseason games, and he was doing nothing. Even the game people tried to say was impressive was
not. Like I said, I was even scratching my head as to why he was brought in the first place.
I didn't have a problem with that. It's a smart flyer. Why not? Let him sit, let him learn. At the worst case scenario, maybe he turns out to be a good backup. I mean, the guy had a lot of talent. You've taken him for a futures deal. He's making like less than $1 million. Whatever. I got no problem with that. I get you.
I mean, it's a
low risk, high reward.
Low risk, high reward situation. So why not do those? That's never a bad thing. And you get a third arm, somebody who potentially could, if they had to, sling the ball a little bit. But that's what I think we're basically getting down to is this. When you look at it and you break it down, Roethlisberger gives the Pittsburgh Steelers the best chance to win every Sunday. Okay? Yeah. And until he is not able to be that particular player or person, whether because he's hurt or whether because he's unable to do it, then he's going to be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I think you're exactly right. And I also think that brings us to a excellent conclusion to another rousing episode of 5-Star Radio. Thank you to everyone who's been hanging out. You guys are the best. I appreciate you just chilling. There's a lot of sports options going on. I know that NLCS is happening right now.
I know.
Pour one out for my good friend Damien, who's a Dodgers fan. He lives in LA. The Dodgers are down 5-2. They're already down 2-0 in the series. Looking like it's going to be an uphill battle for the Dodgers. Probably not getting back to the series this year.
Yeah.
But
hockey's back too. So.
Hockey's back. Basketball's back tonight. I mean, man, there's a lot of sports options. So if you take even 5 or 10 minutes a week to watch any 5-Star content, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Steel Flyers, before we get out of here, what do you want to tell the folks?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate you even considering me to be on here, because all the great work that you do and all of the wonderful input that you have as far as the knowledge that you bring to this, to all of this. And it's great to be able to sit down and talk to somebody who knows not just about the Steelers, but about the game, and so that knowledge and that passion shines through. So thank you very much for that. We got a lot of changes coming up with the Steel Flyers website, where we're starting to get advertising stuff going. We're doing all kinds of great stuff with that. A store will be getting set up, or we'll have swag here real soon. The order's been placed. And so, yeah, man, lots of things coming up. Check us out, steelflyers.com, or you can check me out on Twitter at steelflyers52.
Most excellent. And if you are a fan of the things we do at 5-Star Matchup, please consider dropping $3 or $4 in our Patreon. You can find that over at patreon.com/5SMU. Really helps a lot. As you may or may not know, we are unable to capitalize on YouTube's advertising revenue because of the copyrighted footage. Roger Goodell, I guess, needs a few extra nickels in his pocket and can't let me have them. So yeah. So if you
Tell
can,
us how you really feel about that.
hey,
one,
all I'm saying is, do you really need
Woo!
my ad revenue? I mean, come on, man. Like,
Right, I'm with you.
whatever. I'm just trying to feed my family, okay? I'm just trying to make some football highlights and put some stakes on the table. If you would be so kind as to consider the Patreon, that would be really greatly appreciated. But even if you can't, just make sure you follow the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And big one, Austin, my producer, told me I had to start pushing. If you can, drop a review in the Apple Podcast platform. It really apparently helps us big time with ranking, and so that'll help big time. But otherwise, just keep watching, and I'll see you guys down the road on the next edition of 5-Star Radio. Steel Fire, stick around. Everybody in the chat, I'll see you later. Bye.
Thanks, man.